So hello, let us look at number 6 from year 2011, Form B. Okay, so let's get started here. Let g be the piecewise linear function as it's given over here from negative 2 pi to 4 pi. And f of x is given in this way, a. We want to figure out the integral of that. Then if I were to rewrite this one, and 4 pi, instead of writing f of x, I can write this one. G of x minus cosine of x over 2 dx. Now, if I were to rewrite this one, this will be negative 2 pi to 4 pi of g of x dx minus negative 2 pi to 4 pi for cosine of pi over 2, x over 2 dx. Now, the first portion is rather simple because the first portion that which we are about to look at is this simple area under this triangle. We realize that base is a 6 pi, so area of that triangle is 1/2 6 pi. Height is equal to 2 pi. That becomes the first portion. Minus here. Since the antiderivative of cosine becomes sine of x over 2 divided by the derivative of inside, which is 1/2, so we will just simply have 2 in the front. 4 negative 2 pi to 4 pi. When you plug in 4 pi, then we get sine of 2 pi, which will be equal to 0. If I have to plug in negative 2 pi, I will get the sine of negative pi, which will still be equal to 0. So this portion cancels out to be 0. So our final answer becomes 6 pi squared. Now, here find for which f has a critical point. The fact that f has a critical point, that means f prime has to be 0 or f prime has to be undefined. When do you have f prime to be equal to 0? Since f prime is equal to g prime of x, and then derivative of this portion, which will be equal to positive sine of x over 2 times 1/2. Now, in order for this one to be equal to 0, we get to realize that g prime of x can be only 2 values. This slope here is equal to 1. Here slope becomes 1/2. So that means when g prime of x is equal to 1, then we get 1 plus 1/2 sine of x over 2 has to be equal to 0. But you will realize that this will never be equal to 0 because the sine of this angle has to be equal to negative 2. A sine can only go to a positive 1 and negative 1 within the sine itself without the coefficient. So therefore this will not be possible. Then can g prime be? Second option, which is negative 1/2 when you get the slope. So g prime of x is equal to negative 1/2. Then we end up getting negative 1/2 plus 1/2 sine of x over 2 has to be equal to 0. Now this is rather simpler because as long as sine of x over 2 becomes 1, then we are okay. This simplifies it to sine of x over 2 has to be equal to 1. That means x has to be either equal to, well, x over 2 has to be equal to pi over 2. That means x has to be equal to pi, which works for our option. Second option would have been this, either that or next time when x over 2 becomes pi over 2 is equal to, when you add 2 pi to this one, which is equal to 5 pi over 2, that means x will be equal to 5 pi. Now, is 5 pi part of our domain, which is not. So only thing that's possible will be x equals pi. That is, if f prime is equal to 0. When is it possible for f prime to be undefined? Since f prime is equal to g prime, and then plus sine of x over 2, entire thing over 2, but there's one place where g prime is not exist, which is when x equals 0. Then g prime doesn't exist, so therefore when x equals 0 is the another answer. When x equals 0 and pi. That was part A and B. Part C. H of x is equal to from 0 to 3x for g of t dt. I believe that's the expression here. What is f prime? Or h prime of x. H prime of x is simply g of 3x multiplied by the derivative of that, which is equal to 3. Now, we're looking at h prime of negative pi over 3. Negative pi over 3. That means g of 3 times negative pi over 3, multiply that by 3. Then that's equal to g of negative pi times 3. What is g of negative pi? That seems to be simply a pi itself. So our final answer becomes 3 pi. That becomes our answer. And with that, we are finishing up with number 6. See you later. Bye-bye.